bit, and I'll tell you when to. All right. So we are live. Hello, everyone. This is the Kiltz Health live stream with Dr. Nelson. I am your host, Dr. Nelson. Thank you for being here. Please let me know where you're watching from. I'm in Central Florida, and Dr. Ibrahim is North Carolina, did you say, or South Carolina?
Both Asheville, North Carolina, and I have an office in Greenville, South Carolina.
All right. We're going to be talking to him about many subjects. Please put in the chat where you're watching from. Please put in the chat any questions you may have, comments, like, share, and all that good stuff, okay? Let me see what I have here. So, today we're joined by a true pioneer in regenerative medicine and urology, Dr. George Ibrahim. After a distinguished career in surgery and a personal journey overcoming multiple sclerosis, Dr. Ibrahim founded Biltmore Restorative Medicine. He is the author of Sailing Through Menopause Without Losing a Rudder and the upcoming Restore Your Prime. Today we're diving deep into the science of sexual wellness, hormone optimization, and the latest in regenerative procedures for both men and women. Dr. George, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so very much for having me.
So, like I was telling you before we started, most of our audience here is either keto, carnivore, mostly carnivores, and carnivore curious, or people who are curious about how nutrition, diet, and that affects our health. Many people that are here also are Kiltz Health certified health coaches. And I just want to remind people that, let me see, bring this up. In the month of April, we have a few events. If you go to KiltzMeetup.com, you'll find all these events. April 6th and April 22nd, we're screening the cholesterol code in St. Petersburg and in Orlando. And also April 11 and 12, Dr. Kiltz and I, at least one of those 2 days, Dr. Kiltz will be there. The other one, he may not. April 12th, with Lois, Lotito, and me, we're going to be watching a Mets game and then eating some meat at our Korean barbecue place. Any upcoming events, you can find them at KiltzMeetup.com. And right after these 4 things, it's Meat Stock. And that's May either 1st through 3rd or 2nd and 3rd. I've seen both dates. Anyways, so let's talk some with Dr. Ibrahim. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do. Tell us a little bit about your recovery from multiple sclerosis, because you've had this for quite a while, and we were just talking about that, and you're doing very well. People are always interested in stories of healing.
Well, I was diagnosed when I guess I was 28, and I'm 64 now, and it was pretty low key, EMS. But I am a surgeon, and one of the problems that I developed, and this was pretty early on, was repetitive motion was a problem. If I had to tie the same knot over and over and over again, eventually I'd start to fail. And over the years, I mean, I practiced for 15 years, but it got to the point where I was worried that a patient would be endangered if I could not get out of a sticky situation, like getting into the vena cava and having a big bleed and having to sew it up. And so I retired from surgery. And I got an MBA, started a wine business distributing company. I was a little bored with all that, but it was fun. I mean, I was having a good time. And a buddy of mine was playing golf with a OBGYN who had retired. And in the last few years of that OBGYN's career, he had started to do bioidentical hormones, and he began doing them literally as soon as they were available. So while everybody else, all the other OBGYNs are pushing these synthetics and things like Premarin, get this, Premarin, pregnant mare urine. They named it from where it came from, horse pee. Anyway, this OBGYN was somebody who had been doing bioidentical hormones. And as my buddy's in his backswing during playing golf, the OBGYN says, damn it, Hayes is my buddy. He said, every time I turn on the damn radio or open up the paper, there's another dang hormone doctor out there. They don't know what they're doing. They're going down to Orlando for like a weekend and starting a practice on Monday. They're unethical. They overcharge. He goes, I want to make a business teaching other physicians how to do this correctly, but I need somebody to help me. I need a partner. And my buddy Hayes stops his backswing and says, I got one for you. He's a retired Duke urologist. He's up in Nashville. He's smart. He knows what he's, excuse me. I know he's bored. Let's give him a call. And next thing you know, Dr. Brown and I got together, and I'm learning bioidentical hormones from him. And then, excuse me, we ended up not practicing together, but we still have a very, very good relationship. And he's actually a patient of mine. But I started what was then called Ancestral Health Span MD. We've changed the name now to Biltmore Restorative Medicine and Aesthetics. And now we're doing more than just hormones. We're doing, I'm so sorry about, it's allergy season here. It's killing me. So we do hormones, we do aesthetics, like things like Botox and dermal filler, but we also do a lot with platelet-rich plasma. And one of those things that we do with platelet-rich plasma is injected into the genitals. So putting it into the penis or the clitoris or the G-spot as part of how we deal with sexual improvements, as well as putting neuromodulators such as Botox or Dysport or Xeomin in the genitals as well. And so then on the male side, I also do a procedure where I put dermal filler into the penis to increase penile girth. So that's the whole shebang now. Hormones, people are starting to feel better. Now they're wanting to have sex, but they want to improve the sex. So we're doing the sexual wellness, and they actually might want to look better. And so we're doing the aesthetics, and that's the practice.
All righty. If you have any questions for him, please put them in the chat.
And you'll have to tell me if there's a question, because I have to put my reading glasses on. So.
Oh yeah. I'll bring it up. I'll read it to you. You don't have to worry much about that. I'll have to put my reading glasses to read them, but that's good. So, how does the philosophy of restorative medicine differ from the standard sick care model
That's great.
Patients experience?
First of all, people ask me when I first started doing this, they're like, George, what's it like? This change, this new type of medicine that you're doing. I said, it's really fun. I go, I used to save lives because I was a urologic oncologist and I was treating cancer. But I said, now I get to take care of people who are not sick, and I get to restore lives. And it's fun watching, this 60-year-old couple, let's say, or mid 50s-year-old couple, and over the years they've sort of fallen out of it, and very rarely having intimacy. And once they get on the program, I mean, they're like teenagers again, and and they'll tell you all about it, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And usually you do this later in the live stream, but where can they find you if they want to give you a call, talk to you, have a consult?
The best way is just go to our website, and it doesn't matter where you are. Just put in Biltmore Restorative Medicine, and it'll come up. And then there's a couple of tabs: schedule an appointment, schedule a consult. Once you put in your your information. A lot of it is drop down, but then when you get to the part where you can just write freely, that's where you can just say, I just like to have a phone call, or I live in this state. Can you help me? Because I am licensed in about 14 different states, I believe.
All righty. Would that be
And a lot of
mostly
the
the
things we do,
southeast by any chance?
excuse me?
Would that be mostly the southeast
Yes, but I'm
state?
also, yeah, but I'm also in like Illinois, Ohio,
Okay.
Arkansas. So it's, you'd be surprised. I'm not in California. I am in Florida.
All right. Um, so the Kiltz Mighty Tribe, this is our community. Kiltz Mighty Tribe. We're, like I said, we're mostly carnivores, so we do
Excellent.
uh, low carb, high fat,
Sounds like my kind of eating.
basically heavy on animals and very little plants.
Yeah.
How does that impact hormone production?
I don't see any harm in it whatsoever. If anything, I'm going to say it improves it because of the B vitamins that are plentiful in that kind of a diet. I mean, I've been on that kind of a diet for 15 years. I can eat whatever I want. I mean, whatever I want. The only thing I won't eat, though, is meat. Meat, cheese. I do put cheese on it, but no, very few vegetables whatsoever. And, I've not seen any harm whatsoever when it comes to hormones. If anything, I've seen an improvement.
Okay. We seem to have a problem in this country with testosterone levels in young men being lower than in the previous generations. Now,
Yep.
why is that?
A lot of thought has gone into this. Inflammation is a big problem, whether it's from the sugars, that's a biggie, the processed food, all this causes inflammation. Sugar glycation is a process where the sugar molecules basically gum up DNA duplication when DNA is trying to repair itself or a cell is dividing, and that hurts things. All of this leads to low testosterone levels. I mean, I've had 26-year-old men in with levels that are well below the second standard deviation on the low end of the curve. I mean, I see it all the time. And while when I first started, most of my patients were in their 50s and 60s, I think I've got as many 30-year-olds as I have 70-year-olds now. I mean, that is something that's a big problem. And, if somebody's seeing a primary care doctor, they're not getting the right labs, and they're not interpreting the labs correctly. And this is important. There's way more things than just total testosterone. I refer to total testosterone as like net worth. You can have a high net worth like a farmer. I mean, be great, have all this land, have all this value, but be broke. You don't have any cash. Cash is going to be free testosterone. Or you might have a high testosterone, but then you also might have a high estrogen. And these are all important. So we look at a lot more than just total testosterone. Your sex hormone binding globulin could be up very high. And there's really nothing you can do to bring that down. So you have to overwhelm it. So we're checking all of these things that primary care doesn't look at. And then if they do look at some of these labs, and I didn't know this until after I started being a hormone doctor, there's a reference interval. So when LabCorp, we use LabCorp, when they report the labs back, there's going to be a range over on the right side. That range does not say, I'm sorry, this thing keeps hitting my chin. That range does not say normal. So being within that range doesn't make you normal or optimal. You're just within 2 standard deviations around an average they took from 1,000 men aged 19 to 39. That's not, 19 to 39. So the bookends, those two numbers, the low number is at 2.5 percentile. The high number is at 97.5 percentile. Okay, so let's say if 264 is the low number and your testosterone is 310, you're maybe 4 percentile. There's not a man in the world that's going to get in his Maserati and start driving with only 4% of the oil in the crankcase. It's just that's what it is. And then I'll quit talking so much, but this is a big one for all the men that are out there. Our peak levels were around the age of 22 to 25. After that, it's downhill, about 2 to 4% a year. So by the time a man is 50, 100% of those men that are 50 are at a testosterone level that is half of what they were in their 20s. Getting back to the car again, you can drive your Maserati with the tires half inflated. It'll drive. It's not going to perform. But if you get your labs done at primary care, they're going to see that numbers in between the bookends, and they're going to say your testosterone is normal. Did not say normal, did not say optimal, just fell within the reference range.
And you mentioned something that we have to explain to a lot of people about normal ranges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because labs will take, and they do this on a yearly or repetitively, on a cycle. They take a certain number of lab tests, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, from their own results, and they establish ranges based on that.
Yeah.
So if, as a population, our testosterone levels have been declining over the years, when you compare to the testosterone levels that people may have had in the 60s or 70s, we are way off, because there is evidence that our numbers have been
Absolutely
declining for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's take a couple of questions here, and let's see. So Catherine asks, what do you think about the red light mask for face and neck? And
Good
you mentioned
question.
you guys do aesthetics, so this
Yeah.
is why.
We have a red light table. We have red light masks, red light lamps. The only thing that I really want to, it's not really a caution. It's the effectiveness of products that are available to the public as opposed to physicians. So the red light bed and lamps that we have and the masks that we have can only be sold to a physician, meaning there's so much, there's a lot more intensity in them. The types of masks that one can get if you're a layperson, it's fine. It's not going to hurt you. It's just a question of how worth it is it. In other words, should you go see somebody that's doing red light therapy in your area who's a physician or a provider that's under the supervision of a physician and use the red light that they can produce, and you're going to see a lot better result. Yes, it's going to be more inconvenient, but it's just such a more intense treatment than what you can do if you're buying the consumer grade, as we call it, lights.
So this is not a question, it's just a comment about what we were talking about, the lab ranges, but I just wanted to bring it up because it is so true, Coach Juliet Edens. So the sicker we are as a country, the reasonable ranges or the normal ranges, right, are S for a healthy person. That's a pretty accurate statement, I think.
Yeah.
All right. John Together Strong is asking, how much does plastics also harm testosterone? Microplastics, basically endocrine disruptors and all that.
Once again, everything comes down to inflammation. And microplastics cause inflammation. Have there been studies that specifically look at plastics and inflammation? Not yet. They know just overall the accumulation of these microplastics is leading to an enormous increase in inflammation. And an increase in inflammation is going to lead to things like cancers, other heart diseases. So staying away from plastics is, I mean, so huge. And you got to remember, plastics are everywhere. Disposable coffee cups are lined with a thin layer of plastic. I mean, it's certain coffee pods that you put in your, if you're making the one serving coffees, full of microplastics. What you reheat your food in, things like that. I mean, it's just the plastic bags that we use all the time, the cellophane that they put over foods in the grocery stores. All these things accumulate, and I had no idea how important this was until recently. I just have a family member who has gotten a major illness, and one of the first things that she was told to do was eliminate as many plastics as possible from touching any of her foods because of the microplastics.
So, do you drink coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. I drink coffee. Doesn't have to be every day, but one of the things that I did, we have one of those coffee makers that is a single serving, like you said, and we used to buy the, prepared cups for that. Don't like to mention brands. We're not endorsing or talking against brands here, but one of the things I did, I stopped buying the pre-made the cups. It doesn't matter which brand it is, but what I did was I bought multiple stainless steel little containers.
Pack it yourself.
And I do buy just the regular ground coffee, and we have to go through the trouble of filling it up every time and then washing it, right? So I did have a little resistance at home, but I kind of didn't give the choice to anyone because I just stopped buying the plastic ones.
And it's better coffee. I mean, I did the same thing.
And they're not expensive, those stainless steel cups. Anyways, anything that we can do to reduce. Now, sometimes we cannot really decrease 100% of the exposure, but those are little things that you can do. Unfortunately, everything is wrapped in plastic in the supermarket, even the meat.
But I've noticed more and more of some of the higher end products are getting away, and they're putting that on the label. Like this has not been stored. The ingredients in this product have not been stored in plastic. I mean, there's more and more producers are cognizant that the public is paying attention to plastics.
What are the biggest myths you encounter regarding estrogen and its role in both men and women's health?
Okay, thank God about a month ago, the powers that be finally came out and removed these black box warnings of hormones. So for the public, for the listeners or the viewers out there was a study done, I think in the 80s. I can't remember exactly. It was called the Women's Health Initiative, and they took about 30,000 nurses, females, and they gave them either estrogen, progesterone, or nothing, except it wasn't human estrogen or human progesterone. They were being given synthetics, or going back to like Premarin, that was the horse piss, pregnant mare urine. These were synthetic products because we did not have at that time bioidentical hormones. Because NIH recognized that menopause for a woman wasn't just hell on her, just emotionally and physically what she went through, but it was killing ladies. And that's when they started having heart attacks. Women don't have heart attacks before menopause. After menopause, a woman's risk of a heart attack is identical to a man her age. Well, who pays for these people? Well, they're in their 60s all the time back then. And that's going to mean Medicare. So that's how the study got started. They thought, well, let's just give these women back hormones. We're not going to have to pay so much money to have them in the hospital when they have these heart attacks or break their hip because of osteoporosis, because osteoporosis is due to lack of estrogen. So they did this study. It was horrible. Women started to die. They got heart attacks, they had strokes, they got cancers, and they had to stop the study. They stopped the study and they put this big black box warning up and said, hormones are terrible. Well, what they didn't bother to say to people was non-human hormones placed in humans seem to not work really well. And they finally, now that we've had bioidentical hormones out for, over a decade, closer to 2 decades now, the benefits are enormous. The risks of heart attacks go down, the risk of osteoporosis goes down. So this is mainly, I'm talking about women, but it's been huge to have the powers that be come out and finally say, you know what, we were wrong about these hormones. They're actually saying it's one of the safest and most beneficial things you can do. That's for both men and women. So if you go to what's called Google Scholar, which is a search engine for scientists, and you type in the 2 terms testosterone and morbidity. Morbidity means major disease. And you just type those 2 terms in and hit return, you're going to see thousands of articles pop up. And if you just get a gestalt of what those articles say, it's essentially high levels of testosterone predict lower incidences of fill in the blank, anything. Or low levels of testosterone predict a higher incidence of, then fill in the blank, heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancers of any kind. So, we are finding out that these hormones are very, very essential for good health. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I like to tell people this. I say, I don't think that your hormone levels are going down because you're getting old. I think you're getting old because your hormone levels are going down.
Quality of life certainly is very important.
Absolutely.
And I'm old enough. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 66. I have been a physician since 1984. So going on 42 years. My primary specialty is family medicine. So as a family physician, I was taught to do hormone replacement therapy, and everybody was doing it until the results of that study that you mentioned, the Women's Health Initiative, which was published in 2002. The study was, I think, longitudinally like up 22, 23 years. So it was started in the 80s, but the results were published in 2002. And not only was based on the wrong hormones, the famous example is the Premarin, pregnant mare urine hormones, but it also was, the results were misinterpreted.
Yeah.
So even on reviewing those studies with the wrong hormones, actually the findings do not support the initial conclusions. But we, and you were practicing, I am assuming already as well, when that landmark study came out, everybody stopped all of a sudden doing hormone replacement because we were afraid of giving more heart attacks to women and everything. I've already listened to so many people reviewing those findings, and the results were not what they thought it was. And it seems to be a lot more safer now doing bioidentical hormone replacement.
They are so safe. I mean, and they're going to, so let's talk about prostate cancer. When I first started urology, I would no more give a man testosterone. I'd say, hell no, I'm not going to give you any testosterone. That's like throwing gasoline on what could be a smoldering prostate cancer fire you might have down there. We were wrong.
And it has always been the fear until really recently.
And now we know that men with low levels of testosterone are more likely to get prostate cancer, which is 180 degrees a change from where I was when I was practicing urology. In fact, my brother, I diagnosed him with prostate cancer, but he's also one of my hormone patients. When he went to see his cancer doctors about his prostate cancer, up in New York, they told him to stay on his testosterone. So now people are finally getting it. But, most physicians would tell him, oh, you got to get off that testosterone. It's feeding your prostate cancer. No, it's not. We were just told that growing up, just like you're told, guess what happens when you go swimming? If you had a big lunch and you go swimming 10 minutes later, you're going to get cramps and drown. Well, no, you're not. But everybody heard that wives' tale, and so therefore we believed it. Now more and more people are finding out testosterone does not cause prostate cancer. And estrogen, bioidentical estrogen, does not cause breast cancer. It does not increase a woman's risk. In other words, if the dice are such that she's going to get breast cancer, taking estrogen is not going to increase that likelihood of her getting breast cancer. It's the same.
All right. I just want to remind everybody that we are physicians. I'm a medical doctor as well as Dr. Ibrahim, but this is for educational purposes only. This does not constitute any
Medical
medical
advice.
advice, diagnosis, treatment. We're not your doctors. You're not our patients. Always consult with your personal healthcare provider before making any decisions on what to do in anything in your life
Mm-hmm.
if you want. Okay, gotta clear things up. So we have a few questions accumulating here. Let me see. Let's take a couple. So Jennifer says 68-year-old female with osteopenia, insomnia, thinning hair, asked doctor for hormone test. 2024 testosterone was 7. He says no reason to check hormones in a postmenopausal woman. Your thoughts?
Okay. If this physician or provider is prepared to do bioidentical hormone replacement. Now, here's how this is what I would tell that 68-year-old. If let's just say she was interested in hormone replacement. If she was in my office, I'd say, I've got to draw your labs. But if you're ready to get started, I really don't have to wait for your results. You're 68. You told me your history form says your last period was 19 years ago. You're in menopause. I can already tell you what your estrogen level is. That's undetectable, or it's very low. I know what your progesterone is. It's undetectable, or it's very low. You just told me your testosterone level. Well, that's very low. And then I would go ahead and treat her. But I do get labs because, where I live, I need to have them as a baseline since testosterone is a controlled substance. Now, if the doctor's telling her this because he's just poo-pooing it, saying, you're 68 and that's just the way it is. I mean, I can get your labs, but they're not going to look good. There's nothing you can do about it. That's a whole different story. That's a disservice to the patient. So, are labs necessary? Not necessarily true, but do we get them? Yes, but they do not change my management. I'm going to base my management based on the doses I pick and then how she responds, and then adjust accordingly, adjusting to her as she feels, not to a lab report. As I taught all the providers that I have trained in the past, we're here to take care of the person, not the piece of paper.
So you mentioned a couple of things that are very important. And of course, how does she feel? Symptoms, basically.
Absolutely.
If I'm assuming if someone is coming to you and you have you do our review of systems to determine all the signs and symptoms that she may have. And if she's having multiple symptoms, you're going to take that into account
Yeah.
in your management, not necessarily everything based on just blood tests.
Right.
Okay. Carnivore now asks, while eating a tomahawk steak there, what are ways to tell you have high testosterone? Basically, he is asking, what are the symptoms of Uh,
It's difficult for a man to tell. You know, if everybody your age is walking around with belly fat and you're not, um, if you've got good muscle mass, you put it on easier than your friends that are your same age, then you probably have a higher testosterone level. Um, women, they're going to complain about, really, it's not really testosterone what they're going to complain about. They're going to complain about the conversion to what's called dihydrotestosterone, and that's what leads to hair in unwanted places like their chin or their buttocks, and then losing hair on the top of their head. Those are some of the things that happen with high testosterone when it converts to dihydrotestosterone. For men, are you a road rager when you're driving? Are you getting in bar fights, more often than your buddies? That these are things that might lead you to know that your testosterone level is maybe elevated. I don't think there's any such thing as too high of a testosterone. I mean, there's no such thing as testosterone toxicity by any means. You might get some acne or backne, as we call it, but I mean, that's about it.
it's very difficult for someone, not impossible on, because some people may have a hormone secreting
Tumor,
tumor,
yeah.
but usually it's not the case. The more frequent scenario is actually on the other
I,
on the
I've
other side.
never seen somebody come in either complaining of high testosterone symptoms or wondering if they had high testosterone and then get their labs and it was high. I mean, it's just, I've never seen that.
Terry P is asking, do you extend your services to Canada for bioidentical HRT?
I wish I could. Um, the way it works, and I don't know Canadian laws, but the way it works is, at least in the United States, medical care is considered to be located where the patient is located. So I can be in North Carolina, and if I've got a patient in Florida, well, I'm licensed in Florida, so that's easy. But if I have a patient, let's just say in Utah, I don't have a Utah license. So I could not have a medical conversation with that patient that's in Utah because where that patient sits determines where the medical care is taking place, and I'm not licensed in that state. I do not know Canadian laws. So if the Canadian law is different than that, or they don't care where the doctor's licensed, that's something for me to look into. I've never had that question asked, but if anybody knows how Canada works, if medical care is considered where the doctor is sitting, that's one thing. Then that means I could do it, right?
Yeah. I think the pandemic brought many of those things to light in some states. I am not an attorney. I haven't been in situation. I'm in Florida. Uh,
What a
and
lot of
it's
my patients do that are not in one of the states that I am located as far as licensing is they'll visit my office, be seen. I'll get them started, and then most states allow somebody maybe up to 2 years to find a physician or provider to take over the care. And so, because they were seen in one of my states that I'm licensed, I can see them, then I can treat them remotely for a couple of years while they are looking to find somebody to replace me that is licensed in their area. So, there is, and it's different state to state, but and then COVID
that is
really
that is
relaxed it.
definitely the case in different states to state. In Florida now, I've heard this from other providers who do telemedicine. In Florida, uh, the visit is considered a visit depending on the provider's location.
Yeah, that, that
So
that that to me makes more sense because the person practicing the medicine is the provider.
yeah.
But I'm not an attorney.
Anyways, of course, from Canada, there are many people who come down to the United States to get some care that uh, is not provided there on a
I'm going to do a
weekly
shameless
basis.
marketing thing, and just remember, So this is available on Amazon, and this book is obviously geared for women about menopause. It's a short read, and then it, it's finally out in print. And this one is the male version, Restore Your Prime, and it's also on Amazon currently.
All right. Rocking Coach Amy, for those of us that are extremely high risk for breast cancer, while we know that HRT does not cause cancer, wouldn't estrogen feed the cancer if a woman gets cancer on HRT? No doctor can provide, I guess, an answer. Is
Okay, let's
probably
dive into this. We know it doesn't increase risk. Somebody's got an increased risk. That means that's a family history. This is not the patient themselves, and so trying to extrapolate to family history, that's tenuous. Progesterone, while breast cancer can be what's called PR positive, progesterone receptor positive, there's a debate, and this is the camp that I'm in. I tell patients that the purpose of progesterone is to balance the effect of estrogen. So people like me, I'm the one who thinks that a woman, if she did have breast cancer and it was PR positive, I want to load her up on progesterone because I believe that's going to downregulate the effect of estrogen. So women, if you're in a bookstore, I call it Books and Noble now, and you go to the women's section of the bookstore, you'll see all these books that are, talking about what's called estrogen dominance. I keep hitting this thing. Estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is too much estrogen with not enough progesterone. So that gives another support to how progesterone downplays some of the effects of estrogen. But let me tell you the big thing. The biggest cause of death for women in this country is cardiac disease, not breast cancer. Cardiac disease, heart attacks. The biggest thing a woman can do to protect herself against a heart attack is to be on bioidentical estrogen, period. It's more important than being the correct weight, not smoking, and having good blood pressure. You can be fat, lazy, have high blood pressure, but if you're taking estrogen as a female after menopause, your chance of a heart attack is less than the girl who is thin, in shape, doesn't smoke, has normal blood pressure, but she's been without estrogen for 10 years. She's at far higher a risk. And that, to me, is the take home that women need to start thinking about. I mean, we have all these ball games and everybody's running around in pink shoes, and that's all well and good. But heart attacks kill far more women than does breast cancer.
all right. This is her again. It was kind of a follow-up to the question, and she's clarifying that the sister apparently is the one that has had breast cancer. So
So
that's the
she's had,
first.
so having breast cancer. All right. Do I have women who come in and say, Dr. Ibrahim, look, I've had a double mastectomy. That was 20 years ago. I am absolutely miserable. I am willing to take the chance. Can you please put me on hormones? And I'll go, yeah, we're going to have you sign something special on your consent form, but you're an intelligent person. You've done your homework. You understand that there's a risk. Now, theoretically, if they got all your breast tissue, there's no cancer. There's nothing there, to turn into cancer. But, even though they do a radical mastectomy bilaterally, there might be some breast tissue left over. But you realize you're miserable. This is not the way you want to live, and you're willing to take the chance. And I will treat that person. They have to be acknowledged. I mean, they have to acknowledge, that they know that others are not going to approve or would have, that is very controversial. But I'm willing to do it if that person is educated and, of sound mind and body, and knows what they're doing. I'll do it.
Again, I follow up on those two questions from Broking Coach Amy. And what about BRCA1, BRCA2 positive receptors? Is it recommended that these women take or not take HRT?
I have not finished the study. It's like in my stack, there's a very recent study that came out about BRCA and HRT. And the title of the study was HRT does not worsen your odds if you have BRCA, but I have not read it. So I'm hesitant to talk too much about a study that I have not read fully. I've just looked at the title, but it's saying if you've got BRCA genes, you can still do HRT. But again, I have not read the study, but it's very recent. It was published, I think, within the last 2 months.
All right. Carnivore run weight loss are over-the-counter testosterone product pills worth taking. I'm 71 years old, and all these products do not have testosterone. They have herbal supplements that claim to increase your testosterone.
Total waste. Total waste of money. Total waste.
All right. John Together Strong is asking, why is it so hard to get a doctor to order macronutrients and hormone level tests?
One of the biggest reasons is insurance. So insurance will not pay for a lot of different types of tests. And they might pay for some hormone tests. They might pay for a hormone test once a year. I've never seen one. I don't take insurance. So, somebody can correct me on this. The micronutrient tests, we offer that, but insurance is not going to pay for it. I think those are great tests. I especially think the micronutrient test is important. Too many people out there are taking supplements that are useless. About 97% of the supplements that are sold are not what the bottle says. Whether it says, 5,000 units of vitamin D2, it might have 2,000 in it, or it might not have any in it. And they can do that because it says on the label, these are not, inspector or approved or whatever. There are a few companies, though, that have third-party testing for all of their supplement lines. Zymogen is one of them, Metagenics, and Life Extension. And I tell people, if you're going to take any of these, and if somebody contacts my office, we have a code we can give you that gives you a discount. If you're going to take supplements, you need to be taking supplements from one of those companies that is third-party tested. My liability insurance will not allow me to give people supplements that are not third-party tested. They have to be third-party tested. And the reason why I'm going to get back to that micronutrient test, I had this young patient, and she was probably spending $1,000 a month on supplements. And I said to her, I go, okay, I can do a micronutrient test on you. It's $400. I mean, I don't tell them what it is. My staff does. But I told the staff to tell her, Dr. Ibrahim said, he'll give you this test for free if you convert your supplements to us. That way, you'll be getting what you're paying for. When we got her results back, the girl broke down in tears because she saw so many of the micronutrients that she was taking supplements for having almost an undetectable level. I mean, and she was spending thousands over her lifetime on trashy supplements. So it's important where you get your supplements, and getting the cheap ones is not going to be good.
A few months ago, I did a little bit of a deep dive on supplementation. I called it hyper supplementation because the results I found, which were kind of expected by me, were that sometimes we hyper supplement. We spend $1,000 a month on this product and that product because this influencer or even doctors told us this is what you need to take. It's going to make you live forever. It's the superfood of the moment. And my review included all the way back to the 1960s because I was born in 1960. So over the years, we've had, and you've seen this, I'm sure, hundreds of different things that have come. Oh, the superfood of the week or the month, right?
Mhm.
And the vitamin A, the vitamin E, and all the different vitamins, whether well known or not. And we end up taking a lot of supplements. And I am not against supplements, by the way. I do take a few, but we have to be careful with supplementation because we end up taking a bunch of supplements that, like you said, we probably don't need. They're a waste
Mhm.
of money. They're not having any impact. And so you have to be careful with it. So I have a blog article. I'm going to post the link in the chat here about hyper supplementation, um, for what it's worth. Uh, let's see. Next question. And this is rocking coach Amy. Uh, I would love to have access to that study. My doctor freaks out when I ask them these questions. Thank you, Dr. George.
And I don't know. I'll send you. Um, you know, after we get done with this, I'll look it up and try to send it to you.
And I saw that title as well. I have not read the study either, but I'm doing
And it might have just come out like a month ago. I mean, it's very, very recent.
yes. So I know I saw something on that. I really haven't read the study, but uh, probably wouldn't take much time on a search because it's something that probably was published within the last few months, like you said. So it's a
Mhm.
study from probably 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Just remind me, Amy, and I'll search as well. I want to remind everybody that we do have a Zoom call at 5:30 within the community, the Kiltz Method tribe, and I'll be there at 5:30 as well. Now, uh, let's talk about some of the procedures that you do. You mentioned the PRP injections. By the way, I was trained to do that, never actually did it, but PRP in general and the multiple places where you can do it, which include the genitalia.
Yeah. You know, so platelet-rich plasma has been around for decades. Dentists have used it for decades. I mean, 20, 30 years, especially when they would do tooth implants. They would put it instead of the socket where the implant was going to go, and it demonstrably sped up the healing process and the joining process of the tooth and the jaw. But physicians weren't allowed to use it. So, and this is a true story that I'm about to tell you. Kobe Bryant hurts his knee. All right, Vegas knows exactly how long people are going to be out and things like that when that kind of injury occurs. But he goes over to Germany because PRP was available in Germany. And when he had his knee repaired, they took his blood, spun it correctly, and injected platelet-rich plasma into that wound area. And he healed so much faster. He was back on the court and playing at a level that Vegas would never have handicapped. But I mean, he was back way quicker, and he was back at 100% way quicker. And it made the headlines. I mean, it was in Sports Illustrated. Now, today, we can, for about, ever since I've started my practice, and I've been doing this for 14 years, we pretty much have been able to get platelet-rich plasma. All platelet-rich plasma is not the same, people. Just because they say PRP doesn't mean it's the same. There are kits out there. Vast majority of providers use these test tube kits that only get up to 1.4 native concentration. We use kits that get up to 8 to 10 times native concentration. So that's important because the higher the concentration, the better the treatment's going to be. So what happens when you put it into the genitalia? Well, here's a story that Dr. Runnels, who might have trained you, he's who trained me on the O shot and the P shot. One of his girlfriends back then he had done ER medicine and some other kind of medicine, and he had used PRP someplace, and he kept talking about wherever. No, I was an orthopedic surgeon. I'm sorry, and wherever he put it, it made things so much better. And so one day his girlfriend said to him, I keep hearing about you talking about this PRP stuff. She goes, I want you to put some of that stuff in my clitoris and G-spot. He's like, eyes got real big. And she goes, you just told me that there's absolutely no risk other than a bruise. Why not? So what this orthopedic doc did was he called up his urology buddy, because he wasn't that well versed in the anatomy there. And his urology buddy comes over and they spin down the PRP and they're going to go to injector. But then the urologist looks at the orthopedic surgeon and says, well, where's your blood? And the orthopedic surgeon's eyes got all big and he goes, look, and she goes, yeah, buddy, if we're going to do it to me, you can have it done to you. So they took his blood, spun it down. Urologist knows how to do a penile block, so he blocks the penis so it doesn't hurt. And he injected both of them. And lo and behold, the man reports unbelievably, improvements in his erections, how quickly he can get it up and the number of times a night that he could get it up. And the woman reports, about a month or two later, how much stronger her orgasms were, how much more frequent they were, and she had started to have female ejaculation or squirting. So, I see this in my practice all the time. How long does it last? Everybody's different. I've got some patients that do it every 3 months. Most patients do it maybe once a year. But it's fantastic what it does as far as improving orgasmic capability and erectile quality.
All right, we're coming to the end of our live stream here. Can you repeat for our viewers your website? And I am going to put it in the chat for anyone who wants to.
It's Biltmore Restorative Medicine, or just BiltmoreRestorative.com. And that works at both locations. It's one website, but it's got, it feeds into both locations. And then my books that I just showed you earlier will answer every single question we've heard so far today, except maybe the BRCA one, and then questions you never even thought to even ask. And the books have footnotes. So while it's written to a layperson, it's designed for that layperson, if they wanted to take it to a physician and go, what about these studies? Why can't I do this? But again, it's going to be hard to get a provider that's not, hasn't been doing this to be comfortable doing it. And I don't blame that provider. I would not do something based on just reading about it that I've never done to a patient before. I mean, that's just not how I operate.
All righty. So thank you very much for being here. Check out his website and his books. Is there on the website a link to the books anywhere? Or?
Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
Not yet. And it's because we're in the process of changing our internet, our web service. And so it will be, once the new company takes over completely, it will definitely be on the website.
Right. You want to show them again, though?
Yeah, I'll do it again. So for men, Restore Your Prime. I don't know if this thing corrects for the mirror image, but it's Restore Your Prime. And then Sailing Through Menopause Without Losing a Rudder. I'm a big sailor, and menopause can be a rough sea to be in.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Ibrahim, for being here with us.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Remember, those of you who are members of the Kiltz Mighty Tribe will have a Zoom call in an hour and a half, basically. And if you're not a member, find the description in the chat, search for Kiltz Mighty Tribe, go to drkiltz.com and become a member. It's free, okay? So have a great day and eat meat.
Thank you, sir.